Welcome to our Tuesday night shiur. It's good to see everybody, even though I don't see you. But tonight we have a double parasha, Parashat Tazria Mitzorah, and it's a little befitting because we all know that these parashot talk about Lashon Hara. They talk about how a person's supposed to guard his tongue, slander. And I want to discuss tonight, really through a few sources, the power of speech, how a person has speech and how that power of speech is. And we're going to go through Chazal, we're going to go through many things that are going to show us how powerful our tongues really are and what this power is that Hashem gave the Jewish people. And we know that we're right after Pesach. Rav Tzadok HaKohen tells us it's very interesting that we have Parashat Shmini, which is a parasha that talks to us about not so much what we take out of our mouth, but things that we put in our mouth. And then afterwards, after Parashat Shmini, where the Torah outlines the kosher food and what a person's allowed to eat, in other words, what a person's allowed to put in his mouth, the Torah comes and tells us, we just spoke about what you're allowed to put in your mouth, let's talk about what you have to take out of your mouth. Says Rav Tzadok HaKohen Lublin, Betzavaro shel Adam, in the neck of a person, Yeshnam Shne Tzinorot, we have two pipes, exactly like an animal. Shedarkam yochelet v'noshemet, in the same way that an animal eats and breathes, shneem nikraim b'shem simanim. They're both called signs. There are signs in the same way that a person, when he slaughters an animal, he has to check the animal. It says miad le'achar Pesach, right after Passover, yesh lanu et haparashot halalu, she'achat oseket b'ma adam machnis lapeh. One is dealing with what a person puts into his mouth, v'achat osek b'ma adam motzi mapeh, and the others are dealing with what you take out of the mouth. And a person wants to know what makes you a human being exactly in these two facets of life, what we put in our mouth and what we take out of our mouth. And that's why we call them signs. How do I identify a human being? How do I know who is a human being? We go based on what you put into your mouth and the things that you take out of our mouth. These are the things that outline what a person really is, what he eats and what he talks about. Today, we're really going to speak about not so much what goes into our mouth, but the things that go out of our mouth. Comes the Maharal and says something unbelievable. He says, Dibur Adam, the speech of man, hu kol Adam. That is everything about man. Shenemar v'yeh Adam lenefesh chaya. And a person was a nefesh chaya, which means v'tirgem unkulus. Unkulus comes and tells, what does this mean when the Torah tells us that man was a soul of a chaya? Says unkulus leruach memalela. How do I identify a human being? A person who speaks. Shezeh gever ha'adam atzmo b'ma shu chai. This is a person in what he lives in. The yesod hagadol, the foundation of a person, is his speech. Kam Rabotenu, our rabbis come and tell us like this. Rak bnei Adam shenivraim al yedei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, only human beings that are created by God. Kemo shene'emar vayipach be'apav nishmat chaim. What is this neshama when HaKadosh Baruch Hu breathes into us? A neshama, a soul that differentiates us from animals, because an animal only has a nefesh. A person has a neshama. He says, u'medaber. It's the power of speech. Uma she'HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo bara, and anything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself didn't create, eino yachol ledaber, it has no power of speech. Of course, Hashem created everything. But what HaKadosh Baruch Hu took out of inside of him, he breathed into us. The power, the neshama, the soul, that's the power of speech. Kmo shekatuv beSefer Yetzirah, if a person has Sefer Yetzirah at home, you can create a human being. If you know how to read it and you know how to put the names of Hashem together, a person can create a human being. Aval en lahem yocholet hadibur. But that human being or that tzelem or that thing that you will create will not have the power of speech. Because when even Avraham Avinu, he created things, but he didn't allow, those things didn't have the power of speech. So speaking is godly. When a person's able to speak, it's a godly gift that only human beings are privy to. Comes the Maharal and says, let's understand right away what makes us a human being. It's our power of speech. The Gemara takes us back all the way to our first days. And we know that really the Parashat Tazria and Mitzorah, when they're speaking about slander and they're speaking about a person who's inflicted with sickness, Really, the way that the parasha says, by Daber Hashem el Moshe lemor, and Hashem spoke to Moses and he said to him, Daber el Bnei Israel, speak to the Jewish people, Ishaki tazria ve'elda zachar, tell us about a woman who bears a child, and whether that child is a male, or whether that child is a female, how many days she becomes unpure. So really the first question that should dawn upon us is, why, if the Torah is talking about slander and it's going to tell us all the laws of impurity when a person speaks and what kind of patches, if they're white, if they're a little bit reddish, and if he goes out of the camp, why does the Torah need to start with all the way in the beginning when a person is born into the world and how we function with a woman that bears a child? The Gemara in Masechet Nida, in Tarchet Nida, tells us like this, Darash Rabbi Simlai. He says, you know what happened when we were all in our mother's stomach? We were all bundled up on both our sides, and his head, the baby's head, is in between his knees, and his mouth is closed, and his tabur is patuach, he's got his pipe, ve'ochel mima she'imo ochelet, and he eats whatever his mother eats, ve'shoteh mima she'imo shotah, and he drinks whatever his mother drinks, ve'no motzi re'i, he has no bodily function, because if he has a bodily function, he'll kill the mother. And when this baby comes out to the world, niftach hasatum, what was closed inside the mother, the mouth, venistama patuach, and the stomach, the belly button becomes closed. Because if otherwise the baby can't live for even 1 hour. But many of us don't remember. When we were in our mother's womb, we had a little candle that was lit above our head. And with that power of that little candle, says the Gemara, the baby mabit misofa olam ve'at sofo. We had the power of Or Ganuz, that same light, that same vision that Adam Rishon had in Gan Eden before he ate from the tree of Etz Hadat Tovara, before he ate from the tree of good and evil. Adam Rishon was able to see everything in the world. That same power is given to the baby inside his mother. And that power, he's able to see everything. There's no darkness. So the Gemara continues and says, we all wish, Yov says, Mitneni ki kedem. Who's going to give me back those days when I was in my mother's womb? What are we really asking? We want that power. We want that vision. We want that ability to be able to see from one end of the world to the other end of the world. And when he comes out, when he comes out, what happened? He says like this, and the second the baby comes out to the world, Malach comes an angel and hits him. Because the body that disturbs us from understanding is no longer there. Therefore, Chazal tell us, when the Torah says that you're in your mother's womb and there's a candle above your head, we're not talking about a physical candle. Ela Kavana, he says, what Chazal tell us, what our rabbis taught us, Kiner mitzvah v'Torah or. That candle, that light, is the light of Torah. And he says to us like this, when the baby comes out to the world, the body, what about the soul? Where does the soul come into the person? The body's there. So he says, this, that the angel hits you, what happens? The angel hitting you when you come out, you didn't have a soul when you were in your mother's womb. When you went out and that you got that indent from that same angel that was teaching you, that's when your neshama came to the world. And therefore the baby starts to cry. What is that crying? That crying is the first expression of speech. When the neshama came inside of you, when you were in your mother's womb, there was no ability to speak. The second the angel hit you, that was the point where the soul came inside of you. And the first thing you do is you make a noise. That's your first introduction. That's your first meeting with speech. And he says, Viyot ze ruach memalela. What happens? What do you have to start to speak? That's the process of the neshama coming inside the body. Therefore, the first thing you hear from the baby, why does the baby cry when it comes into the world? because the neshama came inside of him. It's introducing what makes it a human being, the power of speech. You're right that the power of speech is limited as a baby. It's expressed in a form of crying, but the power of speech has begun. The neshama has begun. The human has come into the world. Says the malach, v'kol echad shoel et atzmo, why does he hit us? Why does the malach hit us? Kama rabbis and tell us like this. He comes and tells us, you should know, my child, when you're coming and entering the world, you have a mission. And that mission begins with speech. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, the Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us that Rabbi Eliezer tells us, Kol Adam la'amal nivra. He was born to toil. Says the Gemara, what do you mean to toil? Physical toil? Ki Adam la'amal yulad. The Gemara says, what kind of toil? The Gemara says, po nivra, la'amal melacha nivra, kshu omer, ki kaf alav pio, aover la'amal bapeh. So the Gemara goes through a dialogue, and the Gemara says, you know what your mission in the world is? You know what your work is in the world? You know what your toil is? Your toil is in speech. And therefore, what kind of speech? How are we supposed to speak? What is supposed to be the knowledge of speech? Im la'amal Torah, im la'amal sicha. Shu omer lo yamush sefer haTorah hazeh mipicha, aveomer la'amal Torah nivra. The power of speech is supposed to be an expression of godliness that comes through Torah. V'lachen tzarich me'od lizaher b'diburo shel adam. That's why a person has to be so careful with speech. And we know that Chazal tell us, Brit kruta l'sfatayim. There's a covenant with the speech. There's a covenant with a person's lips. It means that you have a power. The second the speech leaves you, you have a power. And what is that power? You know, the Sulam was a commentary on the Zohar. And the Sulam in his introduction to the Zohar writes something unbelievable. He says that really when we're all born into the world, we're born with the want to accept. We want things. And the greater the want in a person, the greater receptacle he is to accepting the godly light that should come down to the world. But there's a catch. What's the catch? That want has to be the ability in order to want, it's not because I want for myself. I want to be godly. I want to give. How do I give? So in our context today, we have to understand, why do we want speech? Why do we want the ability to speak? Is it to express our needs? It's because we want to express that mission that we were brought here into the world. That mission of making Hashem's great in the world. That mission of inspiring others to take out their godly potential. And that's the power of speech. Because when somebody is down, or when somebody is having a bad day, what do? We infuse emunah into him. We infuse belief in him. We brighten his day. So the question is, how do you brighten a person's day? With the power of speech. The Gemara tells us, Tanya arba'a chashuvim kemet. There are 4 people that are considered to be like a dead person. V'metzora, the person who has tzarat, the person who has inflictions, he's considered to be dead. Why? Says the Gemara, metzora chashuv kemet. Why? Ki hu tzarich leshevet badad. He has to be in quarantine. And when a person is in quarantine, what does that mean? He can't express his godliness. The nature of human beings are to be together. Therefore, when a person has tzarat, what does Hashem tell him? You use that power that gave you the ability to be a human, which means the ability to be surrounded with others and to be a part of others, and you use it for things that were destructive. Therefore, we have to take you out of that category of a human, and we have to put you into quarantine because you've lost that stature called a human being. Because the stature of a human being is his power of speech. Hishev michutz lamachaneh. What does it mean, badad? And by badad, it means that a person who mourns. When a person mourns, he's also considered to be badad. Why are we mourning? Why are you considered to be dead? Why are you no longer alive? Because what makes you alive, when a Kadosh Baruch Hu gave a person life, that angel, when you went out of your mom's womb, and that angel gave you life, what was life? What was that neshama? What did you do? The first thing that you did, you expressed yourself. In that little age, how did you express yourself? Through crying. But as you get older and you develop your power of speech becomes something extraordinary. That's what makes you a human being. Oh, but when it comes to tzarat, you come to the Kohen, and even the Kohen that has to see the priest, that when you come to him and he sees your infliction, how does he make whether your infliction is tahor or tameh? Whether you really have tzarat or not, it's all in the power of the Kohen. If the Kohen says that the individual that came to him is pure, through that power of speech, even if he's not, he becomes pure. Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Brit kutalas fatayim, I made an oath with the lips. Whatever comes out of your mouth has power, to the extent that, listen to what the Zohar tells us, to the extent that how powerful are my words are as follows. Amar Duma. Duma is the angel that comes in when a person's life is over, he comes and he takes it. Ribono shel olam, davar echad yesh li itzlo. David HaMelech, when he made a sin, he says, Chai Hashem ki men mavet haish hazot. When Natan came to him and he spoke to him about the sin of Bathsheba, he went into David HaMelech and he gave him a whole analogy of what a person does and what happened and how David HaMelech did the whole thing. And David HaMelech got very angry at the episode. He said, oh, a person that does that, he's chayav mitah, he's a person that has to be killed. Comes Duma and says, look what David HaMelech said. He said, a person has to be killed. Let me go and take him. Until a Kadosh Baruch Hu says to him, Amalo en lecha reshut. Why? Because he said, Chatati LaHashem. But comes the Zohar and tells us, imagine David HaMelech, Mashiach, with his power of speech, almost lost his life. Imagine how powerful a person's speech is. Imagine how we have to be careful not to say things. You know, many times parents are concerned about their children. So they tell them, don't go out, because if you go out without a coat, you might catch a cold. That has a power. Your kids, don't run too fast because you might fall. Don't say negativity, because that idea of you might fall is going to cause them to fall. That's the power of speech. Oh, if you do that, you're going to fall. Remember what happened last time? You fell. The power of speech is ingrained in us. When we speak to our spouses, when we speak to our siblings, when we speak to our friends, anytime we take something out of our mouth, there's a power to it. Amar Rabbi Chia, says Rabbi Chia like this, Mashma she'akol talui b'dvarei hapeh. Everything on our every word. The world is hanging on our word. What happened in the Tower of Babel? They were all working together. They were all speaking one language. And when they were all speaking one language, there was a togetherness. They were all helping each other. They were building a pyramid. Their intentions weren't good, but says Rabbi Chia, what happened? When their speech got mingled, that was separation. With the power of speech, we can unite. But when our speech gets mingled, when we use our speech for negativity, when we don't judge others favorably, when we look negatively at somebody else, then the power of speech causes separation. V'atzadikim, keshepotchim piem, when the tzadikim open their mouth, it's always for the good. So he says like this, what happens to that word when it leaves his mouth? Continues the Zohar and says, when that word leaves your mouth, if it's a good word, if it's a word that's of prayer, and it's of Torah, and it's of positivity, as milah ola, this word goes up, v'bokat rekiim, it penetrates to the heavens, v'omedet b'makom she'omedet, it stands there till the nighttime. At shemagia alayla, and as the night arrives, and a person's vaneshama ola, your soul elevates. When we go to sleep, our soul elevates at night. Ve'ochezet lamilai, you know what the wings of your soul are at night? How does your soul elevate to see its creator at night? What becomes the wings of the soul, says the Zohar? Your speech that day. That word, those words that you spoke that day, those becomes your wings. And depending on the kind of speech that you said that day, based on that speech, it depends how high you're able to fly. And that word is your key to open the door to see the Melech, to see the King, to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Imagine that. Imagine the power of our speech. That at nighttime, your soul gets a glimpse of Abba, gets a glimpse of your Father in heaven, gets a glimpse of the Creator, the one who created it. Imagine a soul at night that goes and speaks to Hashem. Imagine when that soul comes down back to the world because you spoke well the day before, because you learned well, because you said your Tehillim, you said whatever it is you did, you used the power that makes you a human being. You use the power that makes you godly, because that's what a soul is. It's a part of a person. It's a godly being that Hashem breathed into you. And you use that power, you're able to see your Creator. Imagine how you're going to wake up in the morning. Imagine what kind of desires you'll have. Imagine the spiritual wings that you'll be able to fly with that whole day based on your speech. But what happens when the speech is not proper? Like Lashon Hara, or you speak negativity. Those wings that you were able to fly with the day before, they get cut off. And that word gets stuck there, and you're no longer able to fly. So imagine our power of words. Imagine that ability that we've been given. Continues the Zohar and tells us, Kam Rabbi Chia ve'amar, Aha Hashem Elokim ine lo yadati daber. He says, Rabbi Yirmiyahu Navi, the prophet, comes to Hashem and said, Hashem, how can you send me to give prophecy to the Jewish people? Ki nar anochi, I'm a child and I don't know how to speak. So Rabbi Chia asked his question, what do you mean you don't know how to speak? You're having a dialogue with Hashem. You're having a dialogue with God. What do you mean you don't know how to speak? Everything came out of him. So he's coming to teach us and says, what does it mean that Yirmiyahu couldn't talk? And we know of another individual that also used to be a stutterer. He also stuttered. And we'll get to that point in a second. So he continues and says like this, whatever you think about and whatever you look at, when it comes to action, it all comes to a culmination with speech. And he says like this, and the words that you speak, the angels take every minute that you're talking and they fly it up, and those words go inside the ears of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's what the pasuk means, Vayishma Hashem et kol divrechem, and Hashem heard your words, Vayichar apo, and he became angry, assuming that a person spoke negatively. But imagine what happens when a person speaks positively. When a person speaks Torah, he's able to create. He becomes like a Kadosh Baruch Hu. V'misham kol tefillah ve'bakasha shemevakesh adam lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says every time we pray to Hashem, we have to say it. It's a speech. We have to speak about it because that's our communication. And until we take out those words don't go up. Comes Rabbi Eliezer and says, how do I know that our words cause action? Because how did HaKadosh Baruch Hu create the world? How did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do that? With the words of Hashem, the heavens were made. And he says in the same way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created worlds with his words, we also create and destroy worlds. The upper worlds are being created and destroyed without power of speech. Tanu Rabbanan, our rabbis teach us a lesson. Maaseh Rabbi Eliezer Agadol, they asked him, Rabbi Eliezer, how come you had such a long life? What is it that made you have an extended life? And he says, Lo sachti sichat chulin, I never spoke idle talk my whole life. Velo amarti davar shelo shamati impi ravo leolam, And they said, I never heard something that I never heard from my rabbis, meaning that his speech was weighed. When Rabbi Eliezer opened up his mouth, he knew that what he's about to do, because we know that a person has a sword. When a person guards his tongue, he guards his soul. He guards from inflictions upon his soul. Now, we never know what Shlomo Melech meant. Shlomo Melech, the wisest of all men, says to his folks, there are swords out there, but the sword can only hit somebody that's close to you. The power that you have in between your two lips, that tongue is very far reaching. It can reach from one end of the world to the end of the world, because a person can be in Toronto and you can affect somebody in South Africa. A place that takes 18 hours to go, you can affect with 1 minute. Learn how to time travel. That's the power of speech. In the same way that a Kadosh Baruch Hu creates heavens, we also have that choice. Are we going to create heavens? Or are we going to destroy worlds? Amru alav Rabbi Yochanan. They said on the great Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that was a person of stature, a Talmid Chacham. Miyamav lo sach sichat chulin. He never spoke idle talk. So maybe we're not on the level of Rabbi Eliezer, and maybe we're not on the level of Rabbi Yochanan, that we will speak idle talk. We'll speak to our friends, but at least we can be on the level that our power that makes us a human being is a power that we use for positivity, is a power that we use for Torah. We can't weigh our every single word. We're not angels, but a person can make sure that at least he sees the good in everything. And we all are in quarantine to some extent, some more, some less. We get to go out, but we all desire to be together. Everybody desires human contact. The Torah is teaching us that's that person who gets to be badad, he gets to be alone. You know why we put him alone? Because he inflicted the thing that makes him a part of something. He inflicted the thing, the power that makes him a human. And when you inflict that power of speech, we have to take you away. We have to take you out of the camp. We have to take you out of the crowd, because we have to make you rethink what makes you a human being. And we know that there's a minhag that after Pesach, since the summer months start, some communities have a tradition that we read Pirkei Avot, we read the words of our sages, because as the summer starts and the sun comes out, a person starts to become lax in many ways, and therefore Chazal enacted that we should all read Pirkei Avot, we should read the words of our sages, and that should give us a strength in order to make sure that we go into the summer month, we go into those warmer weathers. Unfortunately, in Toronto, it's still snowing, so we don't really have any warm weather yet. But the idea of a summer, a person becomes lax. So we read the words of Chazal. And comes Shimon HaTzadik comes and tells us, Kol yamai gadalti ben hachachamim. My whole life, I grew around great sages. I saw their learning. I saw the way they ate. I saw the way they lived. He could have chosen one of 100 things that made an image and that made an effect on him. What does Shimon say? V'lo matzati laguf tov me'ashtika. The one thing that I found that is greatest, he doesn't even say for the soul, he doesn't even say for the neshama, he says the one thing I found that these great sages were so careful about was their power of speech. And the more that great power that you've been given with has to be calculated, has to be mitigated. Because if you continue and using it, it's going to lead to sin. Because such a great power has a great travesty. Knowing to use that power, it's the greatest thing. Misusing the power brings about the greatest travesty. And we know, Chazal tell us, how did this whole idea start? Really, this whole idea, there's a mission. When a person comes down to the world, he has a mission. And we have to fix. So what are we really fixing? The Midrash Tanchuma says to us something beautiful. He says that first meeting in Gan Eden, when Adam Rishon and Chava were created, when they were first introduced to the world, how did this whole mess start? Says the Midrash Tanchuma, Ze yeh Torat HaMetzorah. This is the laws of Mitzorah. Motzi Shem Ra. A person who speaks of evil, he defames somebody's character. Remember that snake in Gan Eden? Al she'amar lashon hara al boro, lefichach nitztara. That snake, how did he get Chava to eat from the Etz Hadat Tov Ra? He spoke lashon hara. Who did he speak lashon hara about? Ma amar? What did he say? Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, ki yodea Elokim ki biyom achlechem mimenu v'nipchechu enechem v'eitem ke'Elokim yodea tov v'ra. Says the Nachash, he says, you know, Chava, you know why you can't eat from this? Because Hashem knows that the day that you'll eat from this tree, you'll become like him. And you'll know the difference between good and bad. Ukshebikesh lirvot ha'olam, and when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to create the world, you know what he did? He went to this Ilan, he went to this tree, he ate from it, and he created the world. You also can create the world. You also can create worlds. What was the Nachash knew? The Nachash knew what he was doing. He was speaking slander against God. Afatem mimenu, eat from it also. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the Nachash, he says to the snake, Ata siparta lashon hara, you use that power, you use the speech, you use lashon hara, sofcha lilkot betzarat. Shneimar veyomer Hashem Elokim el Nachash ki asita zot arur ata mikol habehema. Betzarat. And you know, when you look at the snake, and you look at the skin of the snake, on the skin of the snake, what does he have? He has scale-likes. Those scale-likes are the tzarat on the snake. So comes the Zohar and tells us like this, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Re'eh leshona shel Torah. Look at the tongue of the Torah. Ma chavivai. How great are the words of Torah. You know, when the Torah speaks about something, the Torah grows to great extent, it even adds words in order not to say something that's impure, to say something that's negative. The Torah doesn't call it be'emat meha. It doesn't say that it's an animal that's impure. It says lo torahi. It's not pure. The Torah goes to adds words in order to avoid saying things negativity. Malpe lashon etz hachaim. Now, all of us have been inflicted because everybody's used their speech for something negative. Like the Chafetz Chaim says that every act of a good speech, every time we refrain from saying lashon hara, every time we use that power of speech, what happens? We put a block in the building of the Beit HaMikdash. The building of the Beit HaMikdash, what are we trying to eradicate from the world? Sinat Chinam, baseless hatred. How is baseless hatred caused? When we speak slander about a person. That's what causes the separation. Human beings are meant to be together. A person can be the greatest governor, he can have the greatest intentions. But if there's no 9 other people in the room with him, you could have that greatest davening of your life. But it doesn't have the effects that 9 other people were there with you. So he says, but there is hope. When Mashiach comes, the reason we await for Mashiach so long is because we're gonna get a healing. Our tongues are gonna be healed. And Shneimar etz chaim ila machzikim ba. When a person clings on to the Torah, which is the tree of life, tedal lecha la'atid HaKadosh Baruch Hu ma'aleh migan eden ilanot meshubachim. In the future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is gonna go into heaven, and he's gonna bring out beautiful trees. She'en merapim et halashon. Remember the first time you ate? That's what caused this whole mess. And now that power that makes us a human being, that power that makes us a person, that makes us godly, it's now mixed between good and bad, because sometimes we speak good and sometimes we speak bad, which is the Etz Hadat Tov Ra. Says the Kadosh Baruch Hu, when Mashiach comes, I'm going to bring my beautiful trees and you're going to eat from them. And it's going to cause you healing. The fruits you're going to eat and the branches and the leaves are going to give you healing. Rabbi Yochanan and Rakish Lakish Amul, this healing, what's it going to do? It's going to shine your tongue. It's going to give you a shining tongue. It's going to make your power of speech godly. It's going to give you back that human form that when you speak, it's only going to be a proper speech. And we know really, says Rabbi Levi, How do you know from any other place? We don't have to wait for that tree, says Rabbi Levi. There's something now in the world that can give you that kind of healing. You want to live in the days of Mashiach? You want to feel that power of healing? You want your speech, you want to look at everything, and when you say something, you want those speech to create heaven and earth? You want to be a creator? Says Rabbi Levi, look no further. Remember Yirmiyah? Remember that he couldn't talk? And remember he says to Hashem, how are you going to send me? I can't talk. Where did we find this thing? In the beginning of our first redemption. Comes Moshe Rabbeinu and says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Lo ish dvarim anochi, Hashem, you're going to send me to redeem the Jewish people? I can't speak. You want me to speak in front of Paro, the greatest king at the time? Lo ish dvarim anochi, I'm not a man of words. Send my brother Aaron, he can speak. But then, after Moshe Rabbeinu says, Lo ish dvarim anochi, he was a person who stuttered. What happened? Kevan shezacha laTorah nitrapa leshono. When Moshe Rabbeinu brought down the Torah to the world, brought down that tool that gives you the ability, like those trees in the future to come, the Torah is a tree that's right now. Etz chaim hi lamachzikim ba. When a person engages in speech of Torah, when a person engages in the way that the Torah speaks, he speaks positively. He goes to an extent not to speak negatively. He uses that power of speech for the good of everything. All of a sudden, a person, Moshe, you were stuttering. You wrote a whole book. From stuttering to writing a whole book. How did that happen? Moshe Rabbeinu was engaged. When he spoke through Torah. His meetings with Torah. His relationship with Torah. He learned how to speak the language of Torah. He was healed. And we know, continues the Midrash Tanchuma and tells us something unbelievable. He says, really, when Mashiach comes, we're all going to be healed. And that we're all going to be able to eat from that tree. But there's one being that won't get its healing. It says, V'chen hachaya v'abehema, what's going to happen when Mashiach comes? The power of speech, it's going to be in its greatest. Za'ev v'talei yiru ke'echad, there's going to be unity in the world. Ve'aryeh ka'bakar yochal teven, the lion. How does the Torah describe the days of Mashiach? Peaceful. What's going to cause that peace? That everybody's going to speak to each other. We're all going to be on the same wavelength. We're all going to be able to connect. But there's one being who's never going to have that kind of healing. Aval hanachash, that snake, because he started this whole situation. Once a person came to his rabbi and he says, Rabbi, I spoke Lashon Hara. I want a tshuva. Give me something that I can do to fix it. He says to him, okay, I'll tell you. Go take a sack, fill it up with pebbles, and go throw those pebbles on an open field. And when you're done, come back to me. So the individual went, filled up a big bag with pebbles, and he went and he threw it on an open field. And as he was throwing it on the open field, the wind came and it blew it all over. So he comes back to the rabbi, and the rabbi says to him, what happened? He goes, Rabbi, I did exactly what you told me. I went to the field, I put all the pebbles all around, the wind came and blew it up. He says, you know what? Now what you have to do? He goes, yeah, Rabbi, I'm ready. He says, go and pick up every single pebble. He goes, Rabbi, what do you mean go up and pick up every single pebble? He says, that's the power of speech. That's the ability that a person has. In the same way that those pebbles flew away and it's very hard to bring them back, that's the power of speech. When a person speaks Lashon Hara, when a person uses a speech for negativity, that's what happens. Your power goes all over the world. That's why the Nachash, Afar lachmo she'eno mitrapeh leolam, says the Midrash Tanchuma in this week's parasha, in Parashat Mitzorah, because the snake used his power of speech to bring the world down, he can never be healed. Shuorid kol habriot la'afar. He brought us all down to this mess. Mi garam lo, and who caused this? Al she'amar lashon hara. Because the snake spoke lashon hara. The Midrash doesn't tell us who. He spoke about Hashem, of course, but that's not the point. He spoke lashon hara, and he brought down the world. And because he brought down the world, we were all inflicted. We're going to get healed from that infliction. But the snake will never get healed from that infliction. So that's our message. When we look at Parashat Tazria Mitzrah, we ask the question in the beginning, why does the Torah come and tell us about an affliction? Things that we're talking about affliction, you have to come to the Kohen and you have to show me your affliction. Why does it start with when a woman bears a child? And that woman bears a child, and it tells us, you know why the Torah starts with the woman bearing a child? Because it starts with the beginning of life, to telling us we're about to teach you the secret of life. So we're going to start all the way in the beginning. And as that woman bears that child, the angel comes and hits him and says to him, listen to me, my child, I'm making you take an oath that you know what makes you a human being. You know why you were brought into this world? Because you were brought to create. You were brought to make other people happy. You were brought to become godly. How do you do that? You use your power of speech. So we're all, everybody, some more, some less, when we've been put into this quarantine, it's a time for us to think, how do I become a part of everybody? The next time we reunite, we have to be able to mitigate our speech and to take that speech and use it positively. And when a person uses a speech positively, at night, remember what happens? That word becomes your wings to get up to Shemayim. And when that same mouth and that same tongue that speaks positively, and when the world needs so much prayers, that tongue that's going to speak to Hashem, those words are going to go straight up. Because that same words that go up at night, when you wake up in the morning, Hashem says, who's speaking now? Oh, that person who guards his tongue, open up the gate. Let those words enter. You could save the world. The whole world relies on you. And all it takes is that you guard your speech. So I wish you all a good evening. And that's really the lesson that we should take from us, that always look for positivity. Always look to use that power that makes you godly, that power that makes you a human being, that differentiates you from the whole creation itself, and use it for the good.